Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Harvey from Deep Woods Paranormal. Yes, this is absolutely legendary to see you once again make your way into the Fox Den for this episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. This is going to be an interesting one, as always. Much better, thank you. I was very parched and a little bit under the weather, but now that I am fully revamped, recharged, and ready to rumble, it is again time for the Midnight Society to take a walk into the darkness. Shadows morph, fangs pierce, blazing born, fury rise.
When I looked into the eyes of this Dogman, there was nothing. This thing was an apex predator.
Milk road cracks, shadows morph, fangs
My creatures of the night, yes, welcome back to another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. Yes, Matt Harvey from Deep Woods Paranormal has again stopped into the Fox Den to hang out with us tonight. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. Well, thank you for having me back on.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's always good to sit down and chat with you, man. I know you've been pretty busy, and I, for some reason, always seem to be consistently busy, so...
Yeah, I know. It seems like every time we go to do a podcast, it's like, nope, oh, wait, I gotta do it next week, or you gotta do it next week. It's like, there's just one thing after another, always. So.
True statement right there. But yeah, no, I've been finally getting caught up where now, I mean, I'm not backed up. All my new content is coming out, all my old stuff's back up, but I've just been trying to work on some things that I had pretty much put on the back burner, like my Instagram, my personal one, and my art one. I had to go through, remove old stuff, put up new stuff. Same thing with my Facebook. So things that I don't necessarily care about, but I need to make sure that my brand is consistent through all platforms. So.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Yeah.
Working on our YouTube channel, and I've got probably 500-600 hours of video. I've got to go through and edit, and we're putting together our show Exploring the Unknown with Matt and Amanda, and I've got 7 investigations now that I've got to go through and edit into something, and may have to go back and reshoot some shots. But yeah,
that's always fun too. That's a big reason why I like to do podcasts like this, is that I can always correct things and also put up imagery. But it definitely is, people don't realize, I mean, even 35-minute podcast to edit to make sure that I'm putting out proper images that go along with what we're talking about. I mean, it could still take upwards to maybe 2 hours plus, give or take.
Yeah, and especially if you're doing audio and video, because I do audio and video on mine. So yeah.
Yep. And then, I definitely know that.
Especially when you have an office where there's entities that hang out, and all of a sudden you're listening back and you're like, wait, what's that voice? What did it say? And you're like so listening funny. And listening, and he's like, it said hi.
Yeah, that could be definitely a little creepy there for sure, my friend. But
yeah. I've got this German dude who hangs out in our hallway, and he sometimes, every once in a while, you hear him on the podcast. You'll hear this really thick German accent, and you're like, what is that? And so most of the time I don't say anything. I don't go back and edit and go, listen here or anything. I always listen to see if anybody else will catch it, but I do clip it out of the podcast and copy it.
Yep. That's the
So
worst, man. Is the other day I was with somebody and he, I don't know even if it would have been picked up by YouTube, but in the background, I don't know if it was his kids or his wife, but they had definitely had something that I could kind of hear. And I don't know, so I couldn't really put that up on my channel. He's got it up on Spotify. It hasn't really had any issues, but I learned my lesson with messing around with YouTube. So if I can't 100% verify that I'm not going to get kicked in the butt cheeks by some sort of YouTube email, I don't really put it up in my videos. So.
yeah, you gotta be super careful, especially with copyright content. If something's playing in the background, or use the wrong music, or whatever.
Exactly, man. So, yeah, you know how it rolls, but what have you been up to, man? If you would like to tell the audience if you've been diving into anything new with cryptids or just in general, that'd be cool.
Yeah, so I work for the Union Pacific. I transport railroad crews. I don't know if I told you that before, but essentially, I work out in the middle of. I live in Texas, and our depot is out in the middle, believe it or not, of a huge cornfield, huge farmer's field, not cornfield, but most of the time it's corn or cotton, and all around there are oil derricks. And so I actually talked to somebody from Bryan who actually lives real close to me, and he drives for the oil companies. He picks up oil and takes them back to the refineries and stuff. And he was pulling up. He was actually over by my work, over a place called the Brazos Valley, and he said that as he was pulling up, he saw a Bigfoot run away from the oil derrick. I was like, "What?" And I started dropping the pin. I'm like, that's right on the edge of where my work is, where the train yard is. I'm like, what in the world? And so I've seen things out there. If where the depot is, there's tracks, of course, in front of us. There's several sets of tracks, and then there's a place kind of like in the middle, almost like an oval, where it's probably 100 yards wide and maybe a mile long, or there's just open area. It's all basically there's a pond there and there's some trees. It's still pretty forested, but they've basically carved out all around it and put tracks in and stuff. So we drive around this depot and we basically pick up crews from sightings inside the depot and stuff too. But I'm sitting there watching, and I just see this pair of green eyes, and this thing had to be. I went back over. I was able to get close to where it was. I couldn't get quite to where it was, and I'm like, okay, that's got to be some kind of reflection or something, a light back there. And so I went back there during the day, and I'm like exactly where it was. There's nothing there. There's no signals, no lights, no nothing. That area of the yard is pretty dark. And and we have a lot of wildlife out there. We have skunks, we have raccoons, we have possums, armadillos, deer, and all that stuff. And of course, it's got the farmer's field, so there's free food for whatever wants it. I mean, there's just miles of farms all around it. But anyways, he was saying, I was looking at it, and I'm going, what the heck are those green eyes? And I saw one blink. I'm like, okay, that reminds me of when I was at Joe's camp, and I saw that through the video camera, a night vision video camera. So I took a picture of it. I don't know what happened to the picture; it disappeared on me. But I'm like, holy crap, that must be 13, 14 feet high. Now we've kind of talked about this before. This area, I guess it was a couple of months ago, and I had heard some Dogman reports, but I've also heard Bigfoot reports in this area now too. And a friend of mine has seen a UFO in the area, and I've started seeing UFOs like crazy, believe it or not. But anyways, I'm pretty sure this might have been a Bigfoot, and it was just watching to see what we were doing. I guess it wasn't anywhere where anybody could say, oh, that's Bigfoot. In fact, I've been taking night vision binoculars with me that record video with me to work recently, so I can see if I can document this thing with real technology, not just a cell phone. But yeah, it was just strange. So, and then also up around the corner, about I don't know, 2 miles away, 3 miles away, people had some Dogman reports, seeing a large werewolf-like creature, and then again more Bigfoot reports in the area. But Yeah, essentially the Brazos Valley used to have Bigfoot reports all along the Brazos River. And the Brazos River literally runs right behind where my work is. And that's where that sighting was. So I'm like, start putting two and two together. I don't know if I can get over there because there is a road. It's just everything out there is just dirt roads. But I don't know if I can legally go over there because I think the oil companies own that, or it might be the farmer's field. So out here, it's a little bit more like the Wild Wild West still. If you trespass on somebody's road, they'll shoot first and ask questions later. So you got to be super careful. But yeah, I gotta scoot down there one of these days during the day and see if I can see where he saw that thing. I imagine you can go onto the Brazos River. It's not private property, but I would imagine all the land around it is. So, anyways, one of these days, what I think I'm gonna do is get some kind of a boat, a shallow boat that I can go down the river on, and with a motor that's quiet. And I'm gonna take a video camera and just cruise down there and see if I can see anything. So, yeah. Anyways, that's what's been going on with me. I've been kind of tracking a lot of reports in around our area of possible Bigfoots, and to see if I can actually document one of these things in an actual area. And then we've also been doing a lot of ghost hunting too. I've actually been investigating a antique store for about a month, and that'll be part of our exploring the unknown with Matt and Amanda. And then I think we're going to do a Halloween special over there too, where we go live from the store, and we'll be posting that probably on our YouTube channel. I don't know, we might go live on Rumble, but if we can do both, we'll probably do both. Maybe Amanda will have YouTube on and I'll have Rumble, and so we'll be able to do both, and you'll be able to get two different perspectives. Because Amanda is a little bit more skeptical than I am. I'm a little bit more open, if you will, and just a really cool old antique store down in Navasota, Texas. But anyways, that's been around since before the Civil War. That building has during the late 1800s. Everybody got sick, and they had, I've been told, upwards of 200 plus bodies that came through. And the back of this building, the original building, used to be used as a morgue because they couldn't bury the bodies because during the winter it froze. So essentially, they would store the bodies back in the back of this building. Well, we've had some communications with some of the spirits that took over our ghost box, and I have not had a chance to review the footage, but the ghost box basically is just like a radio that scans through frequencies at a high rate of speed. It also supposedly uses EMF to create voices, and then basically it's just like a giant speaker with a radio attached, and they'll come through and they'll usually say something quickly, but it doesn't have the white noise like a what is it called, what's the other one, the other spirit box, the spirit box. So the spirit box has a lot of white noise. It's really annoying. It goes. This one doesn't. It skips through. You can hear it skip through. It makes a clicking noise every once in a while, but otherwise it's pretty quiet. And then the spirits will sometimes use the radio waves to basically create a voice. But this thing came on and talked and talked and talked and talked. The same female voice never stopped, just like I'm talking to you now. And it went on for, I want to say it went on for 10 minutes, talking about yellow fever. And I think both Amanda and I were both just jawed. We hadn't had a whole lot of luck in this location for the first 3 weeks we were there. And then all of a sudden it was like the floodgates opened up, and this thing had a lot to say, jawed on. But you guys will be able to see that on our Exploring the Unknown with Matt and Amanda on our YouTube channel. And possibly if you're not watching on YouTube, and you like Rumble better, it'll also be over there. Yeah, that's basically what we're up to. Exploring Bigfoot reports, Dogman reports now, because I've kind of consulted with you a few times about that. And then we're also doing ghost hunting because it's just so hot out here. It's there's not a lot of Bigfoot movement right now. They basically are kind of stationary or have supposedly moved out of our area. But again, you got to take all that with a grain of salt. So
It's great stuff right there, my friend, and thanks for updating everybody with that. And yeah, those tracks you found down there, those are
yeah,
definitely what we believe to be Dogman tracks. And the reason I say that, if you look at our website with the other tracks that we have, what we consider Dogman tracks are pretty much shaped just like a human foot, except with the claws on the front and back. So yeah, that's some straight up pretty interesting and bizarre stuff down there. And do you feel like there is a correlation between both entities? Do you feel like it's misidentification? Do you feel like they're potentially one and the same? Or do you feel like there is definitely a distinct difference?
I think there might be a distinct difference. As you were talking about one time with me, you were talking about how if you look back into like ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, they have what looks like a dog-like figure that walk upright. I don't know if they talked or anything, but it makes me wonder if Dogman goes all the way back to that time period, or maybe they were seeing them. And essentially, I know Bigfoot's, if you go back in ancient Indian history, they go back really far back too. So there's a lot of theory on Bigfoots. I think that both of them probably, they're like humans. There's all different cultures of humans. People live in different continents. They also live in different areas. We all come in different shapes and sizes and colors. And I think Bigfoots and possibly Dogman too are that way. I don't know if they live alongside each other or if they fight. I've heard that they fight from time to time. From my experience, I've never actually seen a Dogman, so maybe I'm lucky that I haven't, because I've heard they're pretty aggressive, or can be pretty aggressive. I don't know. Somebody might know, live in an area where they come up to them and feed them all the time or something. But in my experience with Bigfoots, most of the time they're as long as you don't piss them off, excuse my language, or upset them in any way, they're usually pretty calm. And I've heard that over time that like the ancient Indians used to, basically trade with them. They would come into their camp and they would gift stuff to the Indians, and the Indians would give stuff back to them, which makes sense in the gifting that people do with Bigfoots, where they go into the forest and they'll leave something like a cross, or they'll leave marbles, or they'll leave something else and come back and find like a cross made out of wood, or they'll find a skull, or they'll find a rock or something that the Bigfoot has left in the place of where they left that gift. And I don't know if Dogman do that or not. I know that at Joe's camp, which we're trying to get back to, he lives up in East Texas. That's where I found those prints and I sent them to you. And when I was looking about that day, I'm like, this is weird. Is this like a lizard man? What is this? I'd never seen a Dogman print before, so I didn't even know. But I knew that was not a Bigfoot print. Some other thing that I should know about. And when you went up to the back of his property on the left, there was pretty much, you went through the back of his property. There was like a path, and it was basically you could see where the tree branches had been snapped, and then where the power lines were right there. On the other side of the power lines, there was a forest. And Joe used to tell me, we don't go up there. Nobody's been up there. My family, his property is about 55 acres. His family had owned lands pre-Civil War up in East Texas, Louisiana border, for about 300 years, 200 and some odd years. And so essentially he was telling me that side of the forest, even though they own the land, nobody goes up there, because he said that people go up there and they don't come back. So I was like, okay. He just told me, he warned me severely not to go over there. So I was thinking maybe it's Bigfoot over there, but maybe maybe he wasn't telling me everything. Maybe he knew about Dogman, and because he would talk about all kinds of things, aliens and Bigfoots and other stuff that he had a lot of information about that only somebody that experienced it could tell you. And so it makes me wonder if the Bigfoots were on the one side of those power lines that would stay on the right side, and the maybe the Dogman would stay up on the left. But they did leave those prints on, they came through where power lines were over to where Joe's cemetery was, and that's where I found those tracks. And I had a lot of Bigfoot encounters over there. But one night I was up at that cemetery, and Bigfoots normally don't creep me out. You can feel their presence. Once you've had enough encounters with them, you can start to feel them, if you will. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody, but you know that they're there. They know that you know that they're there. And so I'm up there, and I'm in my Bronco, and I left my friend Christy over on Joe's property, on the back of his property, where that's basically where most of the activity was happening. And another place Joe said he doesn't like to go at night. And so we were on the walkie-talkie, and she had seen something back there. And when I went to look at the video, unfortunately, she set the video camera down sideways. But you could see, even sideways, you could see there's Bigfoots there on the camera. They came down really close to her. She got a whoop sound, which I believe is the females. When they get scared, I think the females make that whooping noise. They go whoop, 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 and they'll take off. In fact, she recorded it. There was 4 whoops. And then you just see this very large male-like looking entity come up to just enough so you can see an outline, and you can see the eyes. And this thing was huge. I mean, it was way taller than she was. And I never went back to measure it on the tree, but I'm guessing it was pushing at least 10 feet tall. And so she was experiencing that, and on the other side, I was feeling like I was being watched. I could hear something moving around in the trees behind me because it was forested, and his property is pretty thick. When you would walk up, you have these beautiful pine trees, and then in between there's just brush and stuff like that in between and stuff. So you couldn't really see through the brush very well, but you could hear them. And then to my right, kind of looking towards this property, was this abandoned old house. I thought it was a schoolhouse, but it was actually a house. And there was an old farm there. And they were still using the farm. They just weren't using the house. And I didn't know further up, there was another house. And these homes were like built back in the probably late 1800s, early 1900s. They were basically just a wood structure, but they looked old. They weren't wood cabins. They were just wood structures. And so Joe was telling me that, he saw a Bigfoot coming out of there one time. And so I was like, okay. And for some reason, they like to frequent cemeteries. But the more I kind of researched up, I spent almost 4 years researching up there. Unfortunately, he passed away last year, about a week before we were supposed to go up there, and I couldn't reach him. I tried to start reaching him through Facebook and stuff like that, and then we never heard back, so we just didn't go. And then we found out later that he had passed. He had come through the ghost box in the middle of an investigation at an old jail, and I had no idea what was going on at that point. But the voice sounded familiar. I'm like, no, he's alive. But oh my gosh, I can tell you, he used to say brother, in a real southern accent. And that was totally him. I'm like, what the hell? And then I found out later. So yeah, just crazy. But yeah, he talked for like 15 minutes, and he actually sent me a real personal message, and we transcribed it, and it was like, holy crap, this is totally Joe. But yeah, I mean, his place was extremely special. I mean, literally, you could go out there day or night, and if you sat there for long enough, or you started doing something, Bigfoots would literally come to the edge of the forest, back, side, forward, front, whatever, and they would kind of check on what you were doing, and you would see them, and it was just the coolest thing. We have, if you haven't seen our documentary on our YouTube channel called Joe's Camp, it's a little long. It's about an hour long, but it's like 4 years of stuff. And we experienced some insane stuff up there. I mean, you literally go walking through the paths on the side of this property, and there was tree structures up there. I've never seen so many bent over trees in my life. And essentially, you'd walk through, and you walk about 10 feet, and you turn around, and you wouldn't see anything, but you turn around, and a vine would be pulled across from a plant that you just walked by across the path, or a tree trunk would be that had been snapped off somewhere else would be pulled across in front of the path. So you turn around, and you're like, wait a minute, they're blocking the path. it was kind of playful, to be honest with you, but it was interesting. And the more we went up there, the more they kind of interact with us in different ways. I did try and gift one time. I left apples and some corn because he said that he has a corn feeder, and he's of course got every kind of animal known to man on his property because he literally lives in the middle of Sabine National Forest. And so he said one day he came out and there was just not baby Bigfoots, but juveniles, 6-7 feet tall, and they were sitting there picking up the corn from the bottom of the corn feeder and eating it. And so I was like, okay, that's cool. So I left corn out, and then I left a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. If you're ever trying to gift to Bigfoots, believe it or not, they like peanut butter. At least in my area, they do. They like peanut butter and jelly. They like sweets. They like sweets. They like grapes. They like apples, but you got to cut them up. And then basically what we met a friend of his that was also researching Bigfoots in his area. He lived about 10-15 miles down the way, and he, believe it or not, is a retired NASA scientist. Super duper smart guy. I mean, this is a guy that built rockets for a living. And so he told me, you get a paper plate, you smear peanut butter on the paper plate, you cut some apples up, you put some grapes on there, you cut a sandwich into 4 pieces, and then a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and then you put, what do you put in there? He put Nutter Butters and I think Chips Ahoy cookies. And so he walked across the street, and he kind of zigzagged back and forth into the forest over on his property, and he set it down. And as he was walking over there, you hear this loud just scream. And Joe and I and the other gentleman, I can't remember what it was, with us, all heard it. We're like, what the hell? We thought he did it. Kind of like as a, hey, here you go, kind of thing. But when he got back, he's like, oh, I didn't even hear the scream. So it was just really interesting. But yeah, I mean, it seems like Texas, at least the east side of Texas, now I'm starting to find, I have a Google map of course, the United States, but Texas too, is my primary research area. And Amanda and I travel all over Texas, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to travel further out. But right now we're just focusing on Texas. And so I've got pins dropped for Bigfoot everywhere from one side of Texas to the other. And if you cut Texas in half and go about a quarter of the way across, is one of the major hot spots. From Houston all the way up to Oklahoma, Kansas City, Arkansas, Louisiana. That whole area seems to be a real big hot spot for Bigfoots. And so the more I research it, and then I also listen to other people who send me reports, and I drop pins. And recently a lot of people have been dropping me pins for the Brazos Valley. We're kind of like not quite in the center. We're kind of to the right of the center of Texas. We're about an hour and a half away from Houston. We're kind of in the triangle. We call it the triangle. So you got Houston that's down below us. You got Dallas that's up above us. San Antonio that's the other way. So we're about an hour and a half from Houston, 2 hours from Dallas, and about 3 hours from San Antonio. So we're a perfect hub for anything if you ever wanted to travel in Texas. You can basically hit almost anywhere on a day trip. But anyways, so yeah, I've been focusing on what's called the Brazos River, and that comes down from Fort Worth and goes actually almost all the way down into Houston, I believe. But along that, there used to be a lot of old reports of Bigfoots, and so I've been doing a lot of research on it recently, and then a lot of people have been actually starting to send me information on local reports. Like I said, there was one down by my work. There's another lady that lives over here in town. She said she has a Bigfoot that used to come over to her property, and she would give them gift food for them and stuff like that. And I'm like, wait, you're right in downtown. But when I looked at her property, I'm like, no, she's more out in the wilderness. Our area, yeah, we're basically right by Texas A&M. So Bryan College Station is about 50-60% the school, and then basically it's like two little towns kind of mixed in with the school, if you will. The school's the primary thing here. But we do have, like, a lot of amenities, like we have 3 Walmarts, and we have everything. It's not a tiny town. I think the whole town combined is like 200,000 people, but it's a small area. If you were to drive out of College Station or Bryan, you go back into the forest, and we're surrounded by forest. And this whole area used to just be forest until Texas A&M came in. But if you drive out of where we are, there's a lot of little small towns, and a lot of these little towns are still in the forested area. If you cut, like I said, if you cut Texas in half, where we are, all the way over to Louisiana, and if you keep going, it's a lot of forested area. A lot of it's unpopulated, and so it makes sense for Bigfoots to be out here. We do a lot of research out in the Sabine National Forest, Daniel Boone National Forest, which is more of the upper right-hand corner of Texas, up by in between Dallas and Longview. That's a good area, but they're, like I said, they're heavy for some reason along the Texas-Louisiana border. It might have to do with the Mississippi River. Maybe they live along the Mississippi River. I don't know, but there's a lot of lakes over there and stuff like that. And so essentially that's what we basically research. And so we're just looking for reports. So if any of your viewers live in Texas or even live in our area and they have an old sighting, or they heard a vocalization, or they think they saw something, we'd love to get the report so we can pin it on the map, because I keep finding more and more clusters in different areas. Believe it or not, Houston is rapidly growing. It's one of the biggest cities in the U.S., but for some reason, it has a ton of Bigfoot reports. Woodlands, which is north, I want to say it's northwest Houston, and that's not very far from us. It's only about an hour from us. I've had 2 different people tell me they've had Bigfoots walking down the middle of the street, middle of the day, right past them. And so I was like, what? But yeah, I mean, Bigfoots, they're still in that area because it's still very forested. And I've heard of Bigfoots basically going in and dumpster diving for food and stuff like that. So it's just insane. This is an insane area for Bigfoots. But the more I do the research, the more amazed I am with these things. And I gotta imagine that there should be some Dogman reports in there too. I just have not come across too many. I know you've sent me some, and we're still kind of looking into those. Like I told you, I think the last time, there's a, what is it? It's a I think it's an egg laying. It could be. I'm not going to say the name of the company. It could either be an egg laying farm or it's a meat bird farm that's real close to us, actually just up past my work, up in Hearn. And essentially this guy, one of the guys that works for my work was doing some work up there with them, and he met a guy, and he was just joking around with him about Bigfoot. And the guy goes, "No, but I've actually seen one." He's like, "Really? What'd you see?" And so this guy would basically go through and collect all the dead bodies from the chickens, and he would walk out, and they had a spot they would dispose of them. They'd leave them out for predators out in the forest, because the forest is, again, right around them. And so one day he had been doing this, I guess, for 10 plus years. And one day he was walking out there, and he went to get rid of the carcasses. And he said that a Bigfoot came walking out at him from the forest, which scared him, and he ran. I don't know if he still works there or not, but yeah, he was pretty freaked out about it.
That is straight up nightmare fuel, man. And thanks for sharing all that stuff. And before we do let you get back to what you're doing, if you ever want to join the North American Dogman Project, man, all you got to do is look at the paperwork, and then that way I can literally just send you like Texas encounters, man, when they come in and such. If not, though, I can definitely just try. Yeah, I will toss you. Do me a favor, man, and send me your email once we get done with this conversation, and I will toss you over the paperwork tonight. You don't need to print it off, honestly. You can just sign it on Adobe and screenshot it and send it back, and then that way I can actually send you cases and encounters that we're looking into. So
that'd be great. Yeah, definitely.
Hell yeah, man. That sounds great. Well, thanks again for stopping in tonight and bringing the heat with some great information and great knowledge. I appreciate it. And I know you're super busy, but I would like to at least get you back on once a month, man. Maybe even more than that, but keep me posted for sure.
Yeah, I would love to have you come on every once a month. That'd be cool.
Thank you for everyone who once again stopped by tonight for this episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. If you do enjoy my content, please like, subscribe, comment, and share it. Feed the algorithm. And remember, massacres make the dream work, or something like that.